Hey guys, tonight we head deep into the sands of ancient Egypt not to visit, but to be initiated. You've just been chosen for a role no sane person volunteers for, tomb guard of the Pharaoh himself. It's a job with prestige, sure, but it comes with some, let's say, complications. Chief among them, the purification ritual. Spoiler alert, you probably won't survive it. And if you do, you might not exactly be you anymore. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it for you? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins before the sun. You're asleep, curled on a straw mat, dreaming of dates and figs and maybe a slightly less sacred job when a knock comes at the temple door. Not a hard knock, a purposeful one. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. You open your eyes. The air is still dark, but already warm, with that sour tang of Nile mist and dawn incense. Your stomach is tight, as if it knows what's coming before you do. You stumble up, wiping sand from your arms, and open the door. Outside the temple scribe. Not old, not young. Face tattooed with ink that no longer matches any dynasty. He carries a staff and a roll of papyrus sealed with wax shaped like an eye. He doesn't speak. He simply nods once and turns. You follow. Because that's what you do. Because refusing isn't a concept in this setting. You pass down corridors you've swept 100 times, now lit only by low oil lamps that flicker against the limestone like they're unsure of their job. The walls are covered in painted deities, Horus, Bastet, Thoth, all watching, none smiling. At the base of the stairs, 2 men wait, acolytes, bare-chested, eyes cold, holding bowls of something steaming. You recognize the scent, water from the Nile, mixed with crushed lotus, fennel, and what smells faintly like goat. They dip linen cloths into the bowls and gesture for you to remove your tunic. Here begins the washing, not a polite rinse, a scrub. They begin at your feet, working up. The water is cold shocking in the morning heat. The linen scrapes your skin like judgment. They recite prayers as they work, not loud, not hurried. Words meant not for you, but for what might be watching. By the time they reach your shoulders, the skin is pink and raw. By the time they reach your scalp, you're shaking. When they finish, the scribe speaks for the first time. The Nile has returned you. You nod, because again, that's what you do. They give you a rough linen robe undyed, unstitched at the sides, as though even the garment is still deciding what you are. You put it on. The scribe turns again. You follow, and this time your feet leave wet prints behind you on the stone. A trail the temple is already beginning to forget. You move deeper, toward the chamber none of the junior priests dare to enter. You will not speak again for days. Your breath will not be yours. Your name will not be yours, but your body, still very much expected to participate. And now, you're ready for the knife, the one that doesn't shed blood but might still convince you otherwise. The corridor narrows until it feels less like walking into a temple, and more like slipping between ribs. The air grows thick, and not with heat, with knowing. You can feel it pressing against your skin, slow and expectant. Behind you, your damp footprints evaporate in the stone's breath. Ahead, you hear it, the faint scrape of metal against whetstone. You enter a chamber carved in the shape of a spiral. The architecture makes no sense, every turn folds in on itself, and you're fairly certain the space is larger on the inside than the outside allows. The scribe stops, raises a hand, bows his head once. A new figure appears. The priest of Sobek. He wears a crocodile mask that covers his entire face, long snout, carved from dark wood and inlaid with gold and green stone that glimmers faintly under the oil lamps. The eyes are hollow, or they appear to be, until they blink. You freeze. He holds the blade in both hands. It is long and narrow, curved at the tip like a smile that knows something you don't. The metal glows, faintly coated with a layer of something viscous and greenish. It's not poison. It's ointment, an oil made from crocodile fat, fennel, and resin, supposedly calming. Spoiler, it's not. The priest doesn't speak. Instead, he taps the blade once on the floor and gestures for you to kneel. You do. And this is when you remember every hair must go, not just from your scalp, all of it. Because in the ancient purification rites of tomb guards, hair wasn't just seen as unclean, it was considered an invitation, a bridge through which spirits, curses, or ill-meaning gods could latch on. Removing it wasn't about neatness, it was defense. You feel the blade on your scalp first. The scrape is not painful, but it is final. Each pass removes more than hair. It feels like it's peeling away your civilian life. The days when you fetched water, laughed with your cousin, felt wind without worrying what it carried. The scribe begins to chant softly behind you. The words twist in the air, familiar syllables with new purposes. The priest moves to your eyebrows. Gone. Then your arms, your chest, your legs, even the backs of your hands, every last hair. Gone. And then the priest pauses, holds up a small, curved shard of obsidian flaked to a razor's edge. For the eyelashes, you want to pull back. It's a human thing, a natural thing, but you don't. Because this isn't about comfort. This is about eligibility. Only a fully purified vessel can house the silence required to guard a tomb. The blade doesn't slip. You feel the final lashes fall, and then ash. A bowl is held beneath your chin. They drop every last hair, lash, and scrap into it. Add resin, lotus dust, a few drops of wine, and burn it. The smoke curls around you like a curious ghost. You don't cough. You inhale deeply, because this smoke is your certificate. When it finishes, the priest of Sobek touches your forehead with the flat of the blade, then turns and walks away, vanishing into the folds of the spiral chamber without a sound. The scribe taps you once on the shoulder. You rise, bare, hairless, smelling like a hearth from the underworld. You're handed a new robe, this one tighter, more restrictive. It laces across the chest and arms, binding you in place. Because what comes next doesn't require your movement, just your submission. You're now ready for the wrapping, not in linen for burial, not yet, but linen designed to teach your limbs the limits of impulse. And your lungs the patience of the dead. You barely finish tying the robe before two more acolytes enter the chamber, each carrying a bolt of stiff, yellow-white linen. It's not the soft kind used for swaddling infants or dressing wounds. This is ritual linen, soaked in natron and sun-dried until it crinkles like parchment. You don't ask questions. You can't, not just because speaking is forbidden now, but because the look in their eyes tells you this isn't a negotiation. One of them gestures for you to raise your arms, and the wrapping begins. It starts at the feet, always the feet, so that the gods, should they reject you, can send you stumbling back out into the mortal world without a clean step, the fabric winds upward in steady, practiced layers over your ankles, your calves, your knees. Each wrap is pulled snug, not painful, but firm, like a truth that won't be argued with. Your thighs are next, then your hips. You try not to shiver, but the linen is cold, always cold. The acolytes move with precision, as if they've done this 100 times, which, frankly, they probably have. Tomb guards weren't rare, but they weren't plentiful either. Every pharaoh needed them. Every major tomb claimed one or two, and not all candidates made it through. Now the fabric pulls across your chest, each pass tighter than the last. Your arms are wrapped against your sides, elbows bent, hands facing in, like a statue, like an offering. You try to keep your breathing steady, because soon, even that will be a privilege. As the final layer wraps around your shoulders, one of the acolytes leans in and murmurs something just above a whisper. You don't understand the words, but your ears ring when he says them. Maybe it was a prayer, maybe a warning, maybe both. Then they bring the final strip narrow, pale, soaked in a pungent oil that stings the nose. This one goes around the neck, carefully, slowly, not to choke but to bind. The wrapping finishes just below your chin. Your head remains uncovered. For now, you look down at yourself or try to, but your neck can no longer tilt far enough to see much of anything. You are bound, wrapped, still. Your breath is shallow by necessity. Your thoughts begin to float a little, and that's exactly what they want. Because your next step isn't physical, it's chemical. A bowl is brought forward, inside a greyish paste, thick and sticky, made from mashed figs, ground barley, powdered lotus, and a generous helping of fermented wine. This is your meal, a sacred mixture designed to do 3 things. Empty your stomach, confuse your senses, loosen the boundary between waking and not. You are fed by hand, spoonfuls pressed gently between your lips. It tastes wrong, sweet, yes, but also bitter and strangely metallic. You chew because you have to. You swallow because refusing would be inconvenient. You feel it work almost immediately. Your thoughts start to drift. The firelight bends. The scribe's face begins to blur at the edges. The linen tightens not physically, but conceptually. And then the final cup is handed to you. Blue lotus wine. It glows faintly in the lamplight. You drink, and down you go, not to sleep, to somewhere sideways. Your body stays upright, but your awareness slides gently off its perch and he settles in the hollow space between breath and prayer. The scribe speaks once more. A name. It sounds like yours, but wrong. He says it again, slower. It's your tomb name. Not to be remembered, not to be spoken again. It is now the only name the spirits will recognize. It won't stay with you, but it will follow you. The scribe presses a thumb to your forehead, leaving behind a mark made from powdered ash and oil, and with that your vision dims further. The floor ripples, the fire hums, and you are led half-dragged, half-floating into the dark, into the place where sound cannot follow, into the chamber of shadows, where you will sit and wait and try not to speak to what lives in the corners. The chamber of shadows doesn't begin with a doorway. It begins with absence. One moment, you're walking through a hallway lit with flickering lamps, shadows dancing politely along the wall. The next, the lamps stop. The hallway continues, but only into blackness thick enough to press against your skin. You hesitate, briefly. A hand behind you nudges gently. You step forward. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not just quiet, not just the absence of talking or footsteps. The kind of silence that has mass. It's so deep, it feels like it's been fed. Like it ate every echo that ever tried to live here. The second thing you notice is the scent. Frankincense, myrrh, old smoke, dry linen, sweat. And beneath it all, something faintly sweet and wrong lotus rotting in still water. The floor beneath your feet turns to smooth, polished stone. It reflects nothing, yet somehow makes each step feel louder in your head, even though your ears catch no sound. You walk 5 paces, stop. A voice behind you whispers, "Sit." You do. A cold, hard slab waits at just the right height stone. Again, but smoother than it has any right to be. Your linen wrappings creak softly as you settle into place. And then, the door vanishes, not closed, not locked, gone. You're sealed in, with no flame, no window, just your breath, and the things waiting in the corners. The Chamber of Shadows is an essential part of the tomb guard's purification. Ancient Egyptians believed the darkness between life and death was not empty, it was inhabited, alive. Watching, a person chosen to guard a tomb had to sit with it, not fight it, not flee it, just listen. So that's what you do. You sit. And the shadows shift around you. They make no sound, but you feel their movement the way you feel someone staring at the back of your neck. Soft blurs dance just outside your field of vision. When you blink, the darkness changes texture grainier, then smooth, then static, like sand being rearranged underwater. The floor pulses. Maybe. Your heart does. Anyway, you try to count your breaths. 10, 20, 40. Time stops helping. Eventually you feel something in your ears, not a sound, but a presence. It leans in and whispers. Not a message, not a threat. Your name, the one the scribe gave you. The tomb name, spoken by something that isn't in the room, isn't outside it either. It's within. You almost respond. Almost. But something in your chest says don't, and so you sit, and the darkness watches, and the voice retreats, satisfied. Historians still argue whether this Chamber of Shadows was literal or symbolic. Was it a real room, a ritual hallucination, a metaphor for inner death and spiritual rebirth? You could answer, if anyone was still allowed to ask you. Eventually the wall behind you breathes. Yes, breathes, and the faintest light blue, dull and almost imaginary, seeps upward from cracks in the floor. A slit appears ahead of you. The door, reborn. You rise. Your knees ache now. Your ankles pulse with heat, but the linen holds, and so do you. A figure stands in the doorway, the priest of the last chamber or a new one. It doesn't matter. They hold a bundle of cord, linen, tight wound. Your hands are drawn forward, your wrists bound, not with force, with honor, because from this moment forward, you're not just a candidate, you're part of the tomb, and it's time for the next mark, the one that says you've seen the shadows and lived. Even if the person who entered that room never really made it out, you don't walk so much as float through the next corridor. The shadows from the last chamber cling to your skin like smoke, even though there's light here, dim torchlight, flickering, hesitant. You're flanked by silence and stone. Your feet barely make a sound now, wrapped as they are in the linen of the silent. The priest ahead walks without looking back. His robe is darker than the others, stitched with faint red lines you can't decipher. It rustles softly, but you're not sure it's from the motion or the room responding to him. Eventually, you reach a low doorway, not an arch, not a gate, a crawl space. You're gestured forward. You kneel, and as you lower yourself to your stomach to enter, you feel it heat, not from fire, from presence. The crawl space is lined with slabs of stone carved so tightly. No mortar shows between them. The walls radiate warmth. They buzz, not audibly, not even electrically, just spiritually, like each grain of sand was soaked in memory before being pressed into place. You drag yourself forward. The linen creaks. Your breath shortens. Halfway through, you realize the tunnel isn't horizontal, it dips, slopes gently down into the earth like the body of a sleeping serpent. Then you emerge. A circular chamber greets you, lit from above by a shaft of dusty light too soft to illuminate, but just enough to reveal what waits at the centre. A stool, low, plain, and behind it a figure, seated, unmoving, draped in layers of linen, head shaved, chest marked with stars. Your eyes widen, because it's you. No, not exactly. It's another tomb guard, wrapped, waiting, silent. They don't move, but they are very much alive. The priest gestures for you to sit before them. You do. The figure's head tilts forward, just slightly, enough for you to see their eyes beneath the linen strips, pale, focused, so still they might as well be painted. The priest steps forward again, carrying a shallow bowl, inside black ink made from soot, oil, and the crushed wings of sacred beetles. He dips a reed pen and begins to tattoo your chest, slowly, one mark at a time. The pain is manageable, like sharp heat, but the meaning burns, stars, lines, tiny notations. Historians have long puzzled over the meaning of these chest tattoos worn by tomb guards. Some believe they represent constellations. Others think they mark protective spells. A few fringe scholars argue that they were actually maps not of places, but of tasks, ritual obligations coded into skin. You don't need to wonder, because with each mark, your body remembers. A pressure behind your ribs, a thought that isn't yours, taking root in your bones. You close your eyes and see the hallway leading to the tomb, lined with statues who whisper if stepped between. The scent of cedar resin dripping from a sealed sarcophagus lid. The pressure of a gaze through stone, old as the river and sharp as obsidian. You open your eyes again. The final stroke is drawn. The ink dries instantly. Your chest tingles. And now, the scalp. The priest dips the pen again and begins inking a spiral behind your ear, followed by 3 lines that curve into your hairline what would be hair, if you still had any. This tattoo is said to represent the breath of the tomb, a concept that doesn't translate well. You only understand it because the ink tells you so. The seated tomb guard nods once, then rises, without sound, without stiffness, as if they were never waiting at all. They walk toward the wall, place their hand against a faint seam, and vanish, gone. No sound, no farewell, no dust, just gone. The priest taps your shoulder. You rise. The stool is empty now, but the room feels full, like it's memorized your shape already. You bow once, instinctively, and leave through the door the last guard opened. You're not the same now. You carry marks that didn't come from your choices, and words you'll never speak. And now it's time to read something not written, something carved into walls with absence. The next test requires no eyes, only fingertips and obedience. The passage ahead narrows again, not enough to slow your steps, but just enough to make you aware of your shoulders. The walls close in with an unsettling precision, as though they'd rather you didn't pass but agreed to tolerate you. The torch the priest handed you flickers blue at its edges. You're not sure why. There are no paintings on these walls, no hieroglyphs, no protective eyes or jackal-headed gods guarding the way. Just smooth stone, and still you feel it, a presence, an intention. The priest behind you hums, softly, not a song, exactly, a tone, a thread for your mind to follow, should it start to drift where it shouldn't. You reach the next chamber. It is rectangular, low-ceilinged, lined on both sides by blank slabs. They stretch from floor to ceiling, equidistant, like teeth. The priest stops just outside. He points to the entrance, then closes his eyes and waits. You step in. The moment your foot crosses the threshold, the air changes, cooler, drier, and somehow thicker. You feel it on your skin like silk stretched over a drum. You walk between the walls, still no markings, but your fingers twitch. Because the ritual has taught you by now, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. You reach out with both hands, touch the walls, and there, yes, you feel it. Not carvings, grooves, faint, precise, carved so lightly that only fingertips trained in stillness would ever notice. You slow your breath and begin to trace. It's a spiral at first, of course it is, then lines, then a shape like a hand holding a reed, then a hook, then a circle within a triangle. The symbols repeat across each panel but with slight variations, a loop reversed. A corner sharpened. These are the invisible curses whispered about in funerary texts, protections so powerful. They don't need pigment or depth. Their power is in recognition. And to misread them, even slightly, is to invite misfortune of the creatively slow kind. You trace more carefully now. The fourth slab features a square that pulses faintly beneath your fingers. A warning. You stop. Take a step back. Then forward again, skipping that square. As you pass, the torch flickers in your hand. You move to the final panel. This one has no groove, just a smooth surface, cool and indifferent. But as you press your hand to it, your fingers begin to tingle, and you hear a voice, not aloud, not in your mind. Somewhere between. It recites the symbols back to you not in words, but in feeling. Your spine tightens. Your eyes water. You remember a cat you haven't seen in years, a storm from your childhood, the first time you watched someone die. The symbols give shape to your memory. Then they stop. The voice fades, and the wall opens. A seam you hadn't noticed slides apart, revealing a narrow tunnel beyond. You step through. The priest is already waiting on the other side. His eyes scan your face. He nods, approves. No words, just the faintest touch of his fingers to your temple. Recognition. You have passed the wall reading. You now know how to feel what isn't meant to be seen. Historians still debate whether tomb curses were real. They argue over translation, over ink, over the existence of traps. They don't realize the worst curses were personalized, written into the air, into your nerves. You're different now. Your hands remember what your eyes can't, and soon you'll need both, because the next rite requires you to face something with teeth, not literal ones, spiritual ones. And you'll need to prove that what you learned here, fingers on smooth stone, breath held between symbols, wasn't just memorized, it was absorbed. The tunnel beyond the wall is low and narrow, less like a hallway, more like the inside of a throat. Your shoulders brush the walls now. The air is humid, heavy with the scent of old incense, sweat, and crushed petals long since turned to powder. You move slowly, carefully, not out of fear, but instruction. Even your thoughts feel like they should tiptoe. And then it opens. The tunnel spills into a chamber that seems bigger than it should be, not by dimensions, but by weight. The kind of space that feels like it's pressing in from the other side, like you've entered not just a room, but a boundary. A priest waits here too, of course he does. This one wears a full jackal mask, finely carved and painted blue, with flared gold lines around the eyes. The nose is chipped. The ears are worn smooth. It's been used. In his hand, a bowl filled with something dark and glistening. You kneel without being told, because your bones know how this goes. The priest dips a reed brush into the bowl, then marks your forehead with a single stroke. Cold, sticky, sharp-smelling. Not unpleasant, but unsettling. Then he lifts the bowl and drinks from it. When he lowers it again, he begins to shake, not violently, rhythmically, like he's a reed caught in the Nile's current. He kneels before you, pressing his mask close to yours. The incense in the room grows stronger, sweet and cloying. You recognize blue lotus, frankincense, and something else. You feel light. The mask tilts, and the priest howls. It starts low and grows, not a scream, not human, not even performative, just a sound you weren't designed to hear. And that's when your vision starts to slide. The room ripples, the air thickens, your skin buzzes, you blink. The jackal priest is gone, but the jackal is here, blue-furred, tall, eyes gold and bottomless, and it's smiling, not maliciously, curiously, like it's wondering what you'll do now that you can't remember why you're here. This is the rite of the blue jackal, a sacred hallucination designed to strip away any lingering impurity, doubt, or resistance. The jackal speaks, but not in words. Its breath wraps around your skull and drops memories like feathers, the sound of your mother's voice at dusk. A time you lied to someone who deserved better. The look on a dying man's face years ago when you turned away too soon. The jackal paces around you. You don't move. You can't. It leans in, sniffs you from scalp to chest, growls softly at your heart. Then it says again, not with words, but with gravity. What do you protect? The answer must come from somewhere deeper than language. You search. You want to say the Pharaoh. You want to say the tomb. But the jackal would know that's only part true. You exhale and say nothing. Instead, you think of silence, stillness, of keeping the world from knocking on a door that should stay shut. The jackal sits, watches, then vanishes, and suddenly you're on your knees again, in a quiet room, before the priest, who still wears the mask, but now it looks heavier. Like he's aged 20 years during your vision. He reaches out, presses a thumb against your lips, not to hush you, to seal you. Your breath is no longer just yours. It's filtered. It belongs to the tomb and the spirits it shelters. You rise. And the priest steps aside, revealing a ramp of smooth stone leading down. You've passed the final purification. You're ready to be buried, alive, but only briefly. A symbolic death to complete the ritual, to shed the final layer of your old self. No light will reach you. No priest will speak. You will lie under the temple sands until the world forgets you existed. Then, and only then, may you be reborn as one of the Pharaoh's eternal guardians. The ramp slopes downward like a sigh. You follow it because there's nowhere else to go, no side doors, no priest to question, no hand to hold, just the steady descent into earth-warm dark. Your linen wrappings rustle faintly with each step, tight against your legs and arms, reminding you with every motion that you're no longer meant to be entirely free. At the bottom of the ramp is a rectangular pit, waist deep, carved directly into the floor. Its walls are lined with polished black basalt that seems to absorb all light. 4 acolytes stand around the edge. They don't speak. They don't blink. They look like statues that have been waiting for you specifically. One of them gestures for you to lie down. You hesitate for just a second, then step into the pit. The bottom is lined with fine temple sand powder, soft and warm. It moulds to your body as you settle in. A 5th figure steps forward from the shadows. He carries a bowl filled with crushed herbs, ash and red ochre. Slowly, he sprinkles the mixture over your chest, then your face, then your feet. These are offerings not for you, from you. You are the offering now. The priest reaches for a final handful of sand and lets it fall gently over your feet, then your calves, then your thighs. It begins to feel real, the weight, the stillness. You're being buried, alive. This isn't metaphor, it's ritual, it's purification, and you don't get to tap out halfway through. The sand reaches your chest. They pause, let you breathe. Then the final layer across your arms, your throat, your mouth, just enough to mute you, not enough to suffocate. You stare upward, and the world disappears. No voices, no footsteps, no torchlight, just sand, and the dark curve of the ceiling far above, now barely visible through the grains. Your body itches to move, but it can't, shouldn't, mustn't. You lie still. You listen. At first, there's nothing. Then, a low tone, so low you feel it in your bones before you hear it with your ears. It's not a voice, it's a summon. The sound grows, layers folding into it, a low drum, a reed flute. The whisper of thousands of footsteps behind a wall, the rattle of something very old shaking inside a stone jar, and a single phrase, "He sleeps so the tomb may wake." That phrase is inside you now, etched across your ribs. Not metaphorically. You feel it settle under your skin like heat after lightning. The sand compresses slightly, as if acknowledging your transformation. Time doesn't pass here, or it passes too slowly to notice. Historians wonder if this burial was real. They write about symbolic internments and ritual sleep. They don't ask the right questions. They don't ask what it's like, because it's not about lying still. It's about being still, becoming still. So still the world forgets you were ever a moving thing. Eventually, you feel a shift. The sand at your chest loosens. Hands dig softly at your arms, brush your face. You don't resist. You don't help. You let yourself be uncovered, resurrected. Gently, they lift you from the pit. Your eyes blink against torchlight. The world feels too loud now, too fast or too vertical, but you are steady because you've died and been returned, and now you hear the voice, not from above, from beneath the floor, low, croaking, not threatening, just hungry. A name is spoken, yours, the one you were given, the tomb name. But the voice doesn't come from a mouth. It comes from stone. You're not startled, because now you understand. The tomb is alive, and it remembers you. You're standing but not fully present. Something inside you is still beneath the sand, buried with the ash and ochre. Maybe that part of you stays there forever. Maybe it's supposed to. The priests don't say anything as they wipe the last grains from your shoulders. They don't need to. Their hands are gentle, reverent. You're not a person anymore. You're an instrument, a lock, a whisper between stone. They lead you down a new passage now, one that slopes at an impossible angle so shallow you don't notice the descent until your ears pop and the air begins to hum with depth. This part of the temple isn't meant for the public, or even most priests. This is where the tomb lives and breathes. The passage opens into a small antechamber, its walls covered floor to ceiling with painted glyphs. Not the flashy, gold leaf kind you'd see in palace tombs, but thick, angular markings in rust red, black, and indigo. They shimmer faintly, even in the dim light. A priest gestures for you to kneel again. You do. He places a small carved block before you, shaped like a miniature doorway, painted with the same symbols that now crawl across your skin. He taps it once, and a sound issues from beneath the floor. Not a voice, a groan, low, stone against stone, then silence, and then another name. Spoken not aloud, spoken through you. It vibrates up your spine, out through your lips. You don't mean to speak it, but your mouth opens anyway. The name drops from your tongue like a pebble into a deep well. You gasp, because it's not your name. It's the name of the one you're meant to protect, the mummy. The voice from beneath the floor repeats it, quieter now, with recognition. And then a breeze from nowhere, cold, dry, filled with a scent you've never known before and yet immediately remember. Papyrus, cedar oil, dried resin, and age. The priest touches your shoulder and nods. The door is open. You stand. A new figure appears, hooded, robed, masked. They carry a bundle wrapped in gold-threaded linen, inside a small jar. They hand it to you with 2 hands, then bow low. You accept it. It's heavy, warm, and inside, sloshing faintly, is something sacred. The breath. That's what they call it. Not literally breath, but the symbolic air the Pharaoh last exhaled. Captured during the embalmment, preserved, carried in ceremony by the tomb guard, and offered back at the moment of reunion. You descend further now. A stairwell spirals down into the tomb proper. Each step is deeper than the last. You walk without fear. Your breath is steady, because now you belong to this place. The tomb is carved into the bedrock, sealed behind doors that have no handles, no hinges. They open for memory, not keys. You stop before the last threshold, a massive stone slab covered in carvings of Anubis, of crocodiles, of eyes with lids half lowered. Your fingers tingle. The jar pulses faintly in your hands, and then without sound the door opens. Stone slides against stone. The tomb exhales, and you inhale. Inside is a space both vast and crushing. The sarcophagus lies in the centre. A raised stone box adorned with gold and obsidian, its lid sealed with resin that shines like tar under the torchlight. But you don't approach yet. You kneel again, this time unprompted, and wait, because you feel it now. He's watching. The Pharaoh. Dead. Yes, but not gone. And your role isn't to disturb. It's to greet, to introduce yourself, to become known. You lift the jar, unstopper it, hold it above the sarcophagus, and breathe in once, gently. Then exhale over the opening. A whisper of warmth leaves your mouth. A thread of memory floats down. You close the jar, reseal it, and set it beside the stone lid. This is the moment most don't believe happened. Historians scoff at breath jars. They say it's poetic license, myth. But you know better, because when you close your eyes, you hear him exhale back from inside the stone, not as a ghost, not as a warning, as a welcome. You have arrived, and you are now his. The silence that follows is unlike any other you've known, not blank, not empty. It's full, saturated with presence. You remain kneeling beside the sarcophagus, your breath soft, your hand still cradling the sealed jar like a relic. You don't look up. You don't need to. You feel the Pharaoh's attention still precise, heavier than gravity. And for a moment, you feel small in the way only eternity can make you feel. A shadow passes over you, not from light, not from movement, a spiritual weight, like the memory of a canopy overhead. You're not alone, and you're not expected to be. Two priests enter behind you now, one carrying a shallow bowl filled with fine white sand, the other a bundle of reeds bound in black thread. They move slowly, reverently, like they're underwater. One dips the reeds into the bowl and begins to walk a perfect circle around you, and the sarcophagus, sprinkling sand as he chants under his breath, not loud, but firm, the ritual of sealing. You watch the sand fall. Each grain seems to land in a perfect spot. Nothing random about it, because the pattern is old, older than this pharaoh, older than this tomb, a sealing not of doors but of meanings. You are being drawn into the sacred circuit. You're becoming part of the lock. The chanting stops. The circle is closed, and now it is time. One of the priests steps aside and gestures toward the rear wall of the tomb. You turn, you see it. A carving deep, sharp, still darkened from when it was burned into the stone. It depicts a gate. A stylized version, flanked by crocodiles and scorpions and a giant pair of wings, one feather missing. Your final task before you become a full tomb guard, you must learn to lock that gate, not physically, spiritually, and it can only be done once. The ritual is complex. The priest hands you a strip of linen soaked in ink, embroidered with thin silver thread. It's covered in small symbols, all spirals, interlocked triangles, and serpent knots. You press it to your lips, breathe onto it, then wrap it around your left hand. Your right hand holds the drum. Yes, the small ceremonial drum given only to tomb guards who've passed every trial. You hadn't noticed it until now, but it was there, tucked behind the sarcophagus, waiting. It fits perfectly in your palm. A single beat echoes through the tomb as you strike it once. The priest step back. You approach the wall carving and begin the sequence of closure. You raise your left hand wrapped in the linen oath and trace the gate's frame. One beat of the drum. Your right foot steps forward. You draw a spiral in the sand with your toe. Second beat. You press both palms to the gate's wings. You inhale and hold it. Third beat, and then silence. You release your breath through your teeth, and every torch in the tomb flutters once. You step back, and the carving responds. It glows faintly, faint enough to doubt, strong enough to believe. The gate is now locked, and you are its key. You're handed a mouthful of dust, fine, grey, bitter. You do not swallow it. You press it into your gums, behind your lower lip. This is the dust oath. Symbolic, of course, but also permanent. Its bitterness lingers. A reminder, every time you speak, that your words are no longer yours. They belong to the tomb. Historians sometimes reference the dust oath as metaphor. They don't understand it's literal. Because from now on, breaking your silence won't just dishonour you, it might wake something that was promised peace. The priests bow once more and withdraw, leaving you alone in the tomb, still wrapped, still marked, still humming faintly with everything you've endured. And then you hear it, the faintest sigh from within the sarcophagus, the Pharaoh, perhaps, turning in his eternal sleep, or maybe just a whisper of dust settling into the perfect shape of a secret. Either way, your vigil is about to begin. The tomb door seals behind you with a whisper so soft it could be mistaken for your own exhale. No clang, no dramatic rumble, just a closing, like a book that no longer needs to be read aloud. You're now inside, truly inside. The vigil begins. There is no furniture here, no cushion, no mat, no altar, only stone. The Pharaoh's sarcophagus lies at the chamber's centre, like a sleeping god who's politely agreed not to open his eyes as long as you do your job. You stand still, you wait. That's it. That's the entire rite, and it's the hardest one yet, because nothing happens, which is precisely the test. You're given no candle, no bell, no voice, only time, and not even useful time. The kind of time that melts against your thoughts until you forget when you blinked last. Your joints ache after the first hour, your fingers twitch, your stomach protests, but you remain still. That's what you do, because movement would disturb the seals, and sound would invite company. After a while, you begin to hear things, soft things, not necessarily unkind, whispers, a breath that doesn't match your own, a slow, rhythmic tapping. You look down, your drum is still, so is your foot, so is everything, and yet you hear it, somewhere, beneath the floor, a slow pulse, 4 beats, then a pause. It doesn't speed up, doesn't change, it's just there, the heartbeat of the tomb. It reminds you you're not alone in this silence. You're sharing it, and eventually something changes. The air shifts, only slightly, as if someone invisible just walked past you. You resist the urge to turn your head. Your wrappings help they keep you in check. They remind your body to obey. A statue doesn't look around. A statue doesn't scratch an itch. A statue doesn't question. And so you don't. After what might be another hour or maybe a lifetime, you feel it. A presence. In the far corner of the chamber. It doesn't move. It doesn't speak. But it exists. It's watching you. Evaluating. Waiting for your mistake. Historians speculate that tomb guards were sometimes drugged during the vigil. Hallucinogens, datura, blue lotus. They talk about sensory deprivation causing visions. They don't ask why the guards were required to stay awake. Why there's no record of what's supposed to happen during the vigil, only rules about how to behave. You know why. Because the Pharaoh isn't the only thing buried here. Something else lies in wait. Not evil, not vengeful, just ancient, and it needs to know you can withstand boredom, fear, discomfort, silence, uncertainty, hallucination, and presence without cracking, because that's what tomb guarding is. Not drama, not traps, not swordplay or shouts. It's patience. It's integrity when no one is watching and something is, and still you stand, your thoughts slow, your muscles burn and then go numb, your breath grows shallower, but you never look toward the corner. Eventually, the presence fades, no fanfare, no judgment, just acceptance. And then the walls around you begin to feel warmer, not physically, spiritually. You've been absorbed, recognized. The tomb no longer treats you as a foreign object. You are one of its bones now. The Pharaoh will continue to sleep because you, the key, remain steady, and that's enough. You hear the door behind you unseal with a sigh. Your first vigil is over. You may leave. But you'll never truly be outside again. Not completely, because the silence you've kept, it lives in you now, like dust in your lungs, like a name under your skin. The door opens without anyone touching it. A thin line of torchlight slices across the floor, illuminating motes of dust that haven't moved in centuries until now. You don't step toward it. You wait, because a tomb guard never leaves a vigil in haste, not even when summoned, especially not then. Eventually, a priest appears in the doorway. Not the same as before. This one is younger. His linen is brighter. He doesn't speak, of course not, but his posture says everything you may return. You bow to the sarcophagus. Once. Then step backward 3 paces, never turning your back to the Pharaoh. Only after the 3rd step do you turn and exit the chamber. The priest bows to you as you pass. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's real, because you're no longer an initiate. You are initiated. Your steps are slow, heavy. You're not tired. You're changed. There's a weight in your chest now, not burden. Exactly. More like gravity. Everything pulls toward you differently. The other priests you pass don't meet your eye. They keep their heads low. Some bow. Others pretend not to see you at all. You've joined a brotherhood beyond rank, beyond ceremony, one that answers to the tombs, not the temple. You're led back through corridors that now feel narrower, not physically, but because you are larger. You contain more, not more muscle or ego, just more silence. You arrive at a room you haven't seen before. This one is warm. There's a basin of water, a mat to sit on, a robe new, tightly woven, dyed in deep red and black. You remove the wrappings, carefully. You feel reluctant, like you're unwrapping a story that should have stayed sealed. Your skin beneath the linen is dry, marked with faint creases. The tattoos on your chest and scalp sting slightly as the air touches them. They've set, permanently. You wash in the basin. The water smells of cinnamon and papyrus. A gentle cleansing, not for purity but for transition. A priest re-enters and holds out the robe. You slip into it. It fits perfectly, because it was never meant for anyone else. He gestures to a low table where a small knife rests, curved, delicate. The blade catches the firelight and hums faintly. This is your knife, the one given to all tomb guards after their first vigil. It's not for combat, it's for presence, carried as a symbol of separation. Its blade is said to cut through lies, shadows, and the veil between breath and death. You lift it, feel the weight. It's featherlight, but you understand why people fear it, because this isn't just a weapon, it's a promise. A priest steps behind you and ties a leather thong around your wrist, securing the blade's sheath in place. It must never leave your side now, even in sleep, even in dreams, especially then. The final part of this moment comes quietly. You are brought to a courtyard, open to the sky. The stars are out now. So many. You forgot how bright they could be when not painted on tomb ceilings. A senior priest approaches. His robe is made of thread so fine, it moves like mist. He speaks the first words you've heard in hours, maybe days. You're no longer counted among the living. His voice is soft, not cruel, just truthful. You are now part of what must remain. You nod. He presses a hand to your chest, directly over the tattoos. You feel the warmth, then the chill, then nothing. You will eat among us, walk among us, but your name is no longer yours. It belongs to the tomb. You will not speak of what you have seen, nor what you will see, until you rejoin the dust. He steps back. The courtyard falls quiet again, and the stars blink like they've approved the message. You sleep in the dormitory that night, but not deeply, not comfortably, not because the bed is hard, but because the tomb still echoes in your spine. It will for the rest of your life. And in the morning your true service begins. Your first sunrise as a guardian of the dead, one of the still, one of the silent, one of the remembered by none. The morning comes not with birdsong, but with a drum beat. One slow thump, then another. You wake instantly, eyes open in perfect time with the rhythm, not because it startles you, because it's familiar now. It's yours. You rise from the woven mat without a sound. The robe clings gently to your skin, still scented with temple smoke and iron. Your blade rests on the small shelf beside your bedroll. You pick it up without thinking and strap it to your wrist. The weight completes you. It doesn't feel like a weapon. It feels like punctuation. Outside, the sun is rising behind the temple walls. It glows faintly red, caught in the dust and morning heat. A priest waits at the courtyard's edge. No words, no gesture, just presence. You follow today. You're to be taken to the tomb site for which your soul was prepared. You pass through hallways no one else sees. Doors open before you that remain shut to other acolytes. One door is carved with a scarab, its wings spread and painted with ground lapis. Another with the stylized shape of a snake devouring its own tail eternity. You realize, slowly, that these aren't just symbols, they're maps. The doors has been speaking all along, to those who know how to listen. You exit the temple grounds through a gate flanked by silent statues, jackals, lions, and one long-forgotten goddess with her mouth sewn shut in stone. Outside, a small palanquin waits, not for travel, for presentation. You are led to it and seated within. The fabric is dark, embroidered, heavy. You cannot see the city as you're carried through it. But you feel the stairs, not of people, of spirits, of memories that know exactly who you are now. They do not greet you. They acknowledge you by not acknowledging you, because you are no longer part of the everyday world. You arrive at the edge of the desert, far beyond the tombs of nobles, beyond the false tombs made for tourists and dignitaries, to a place cut into the cliffs, where the air smells of powdered stone and ancient incense. The palanquin stops. The curtain opens, and you see it, your tomb. not your grave, no. The tomb you were born to guard. Its entrance is narrow, its lintel low, its facade worn smooth by centuries of wind. There are no names carved above it, no statues and no prayers. It is deliberate, a tomb for a pharaoh too important to be remembered by accident. You step forward. Your bare feet touch the stone with purpose. The priests behind you stop. They do not follow. You enter alone. It's cool inside, not cold, not damp, just still. Dust hangs in the air like thought. You walk the passage, torch in hand. The walls here aren't decorated. They pulse with presence instead. You descend a long stair, 47 steps, each one said to represent a name of the son God not to be spoken. At the bottom, the tomb opens wide, not vast, vast enough. The sarcophagus sits in the centre, different from the one in your initiation. This one is yours, the one you were trained for, the one whose locks you now understand, the one whose guardian you must be. You approach it and kneel. There's no fanfare, no music, no audience, just the tomb and your heartbeat, and the quiet certainty that you're now in the right place. You draw your knife, not to fight, to honour. You lay it on the ground before the sarcophagus, then retrieve it, a symbolic gesture, to offer your life, to be granted it back. The air shifts, approves, and then the tomb breathes. A soft exhale of air from cracks no one else would notice. You sit against the wall. The vigil here will be longer, lifelong, but you are ready, because now the silence isn't heavy, it's home. Time has no grip inside the tomb. Light filters in only when the priests bring offerings, rarely, and always in silence. Otherwise, you live by soundless rhythms. The hum of the stone, the way air changes texture before and after sunrise, the subtle crackle of painted resin when the walls cool at night. You don't count days, you count moments, moments when the air shifts, when a statue seems to turn its face by a fraction, when the dust swirls in patterns that don't match the wind. You are not here to guard a body. You are here to guard a stillness. The Pharaoh within has no more need of protection from thieves. The tomb's seals are deep, clever, layered beyond mortal logic. Your real job is more sacred and infinitely more difficult. You are here to keep the tomb asleep. Every tomb wants to open eventually. They breathe. They remember. They dream. And dreams leak. So you sit. You hum. When the walls feel restless. You trace protective spirals in the dust with your fingertip. You whisper your tomb name into the cracks when the sarcophagus pulses warm. And always you listen. Because sometimes the tomb asks. It asks if it's still night. It asks if the Nile still rises. It asks whether the sun has returned to his boat, and you answer not aloud, never aloud, but with presence, still here, still watching, still silent. Sometimes you see things, a flicker, a shimmer, a flash of gold robes in the corner of your eye. You never turn your head, because you know they're not meant to be seen directly, only acknowledged. This is your test. Not once, always. One day. A priest arrives at the threshold. He does not enter. He places a jar on the floor and backs away. You know what it means. You've been summoned not to leave, to complete the final rite, because it's been decades. Your body has held up well, but time is patient, and the tomb is generous. It will release you, but only the outer part. The inner part will stay. The priest who left the jar is young. He hasn't seen your face. He never will. You uncork the jar. Inside a strip of gold-painted linen and a single pomegranate seed, preserved in resin. You eat the seed. It tastes of old sunlight and cool clay. You tie the linen around your arm. It binds your pulse to the tomb forever. Then you lie down beside the sarcophagus. Not inside. Not yet. Just close enough for your breath to match its silence. And you wait. Again. A dream rises. This time, you're walking through reeds. The Nile is low. The air is thick. Someone walks beside you, hand in yours. You don't know their name, but they hum the same tune you used to soothe the walls, and you feel complete. The dream breaks. You open your eyes, still in the tomb. Still silent, still you, but lighter. And now, it is time to receive the next. Yes, because someone is coming. A new guard, one chosen. As you were, your replacement, your echo. You rise, you prepare the space, sweep the floor, warm the oil, mark the spiral on the entry stone. You place your knife in the niche. You do not look back, because your task is ending, and theirs is about to begin. You wait at the shadow's edge, beyond the threshold, where light dares only to visit. The outer corridor hums faintly, torches being lit, feet approaching in reverent rhythm. You do not stand in greeting. That is not your role. Instead, you remain seated, spine aligned with the carved wall behind you, the spiral on the stone beside you pulsing faintly beneath your fingers. The presence is close now, a new tomb guard. They do not yet know who they are, but you do. You remember what it felt like to be chosen and confused, hollowed out and filled again with silence and fig wine and names no one else could remember. You see the flicker of torchlight before the figure appears. They kneel. Their movements are stiff, hesitant. The linen binding is fresh, the tattoos still dark, their knife still sharp from ceremony. You recognize the weight in their posture, that subtle blend of reverence and exhaustion. The scribe stands behind them, chanting softly in the dialect only used during transfer rites. His words are low and curling, like smoke finding a crack. You bow your head once. That's the signal. You rise slowly, as if wakened from stone. Your joints crack softly, echoing more loudly than they should. The novice flinches slightly. Good, they're alert. The scribe steps forward and draws a thin line in the dust between you both with a finger dipped in ochre. Then he steps back. You draw your knife. The novice does the same. And you both press the blades tip down into the earth at the centre of the line. This is the exchange, not of authority, of silence. It must be passed on, not taught, not told, only witnessed. You step back. The novice remains. You walk a half circle behind them, placing your hand briefly on their shoulder. The contact is brief, but final. You whisper one thing, the only allowed words in this entire rite. You were always here, and you mean it, because the tomb doesn't just choose guards, it remembers them, from before they were born. The moment you finish speaking, the stone behind you sighs, literally. The wall moves inward, revealing a niche inside your resting place. Not a coffin, a crevice, shaped like your outline, smooth, warm, worn smooth by prophecy. You step into it, lie down, cross your arms, and close your eyes. The scribe begins to seal the stone. No fanfare, no tears. You're not being entombed. You're becoming part of the tomb. Historians love to debate whether tomb guards were buried alive They don't realize the question is backward. You're not dying. You're transforming. The stone cools at your back. You hear the novice take their first steps deeper into the tomb. Their breath catches. Good. They heard it. The sigh of the Pharaoh. The whisper of the paint. The shuffle of memory in a chamber that knows the weight of ages. The scribe leaves. The niche seals. And darkness folds around you. But this darkness is not empty. It is full. A rhythm. A hum. A name, your name spoken once more as the tomb exhales one final time. You do not sleep. You settle, and your silence becomes eternal. Not as punishment, as presence. Because now, the tomb dreams of you. At first, it feels like you've simply closed your eyes. No heaviness, no final gasp. Just stillness so perfect it becomes structure. You no longer breathe the way you once did. You draw memory instead of air. You feel through stone rather than skin. The walls have absorbed your presence, and in return, they share theirs. The tomb speaks now not in language, but in weight, temperature, tension. You feel when someone enters. You know when someone prays. The silence around you is no longer passive. It responds. You're the center of a ripple that never stops spreading. Somewhere above, the novice, your novice, moves through their first vigil. Their blade is lighter than it should be. Their footing unsure. You remember. You remember how your own heart once beat too fast. How you clutched at the silence and hoped it wouldn't fall apart in your hands. You hear them step wrong. Touch a wall too soon. Pause too long near the inner chamber door. The tomb stiffens slightly, and so you hum, not with voice, but with presence. A low pulse of reassurance, like a grandfather clearing his throat gently, not to scold, but to remind. The tomb eases. So does the novice. They sit. You feel their breathing slow, and the room settles. You're teaching, now, without words, without even a name, through rhythm and patience and the invisible threads that connect all guardians of the dead. Centuries pass, not all at once. Sometimes quickly, like the flutter of a priest's robe in a sandstorm, sometimes slowly like dust layering the lip of a water jar. You do not mark them with numbers. You mark them by who forgets you and who remembers. Most forget. But a few remember. They whisper your tomb name in passing, not loud, just under their breath while cleaning a tool or entering a hallway. Somewhere, someone once carved your symbol a small spiral beneath a reed boat into the corner of a tomb they weren't supposed to be in. You felt that. You approved. You're more than a person now. You're part of the tomb system, like a breath that never fully exhales. You manage heat, vibration, dream. When fools disturb the outer chambers seeking gold, seeking legend, you don't strike. You simply interrupt. A tool breaks. A torch flickers. A bag rips open, releasing its contents across the floor. Sometimes a whispered voice says, "Not here." That's you. Not cruel, not hostile. Just maintaining balance, because that's your job. Even now. Especially now. Sometimes you think of the Nile, its warmth, its smell, the riverboat songs rising in early morning mist. You remember the sound of your own name, spoken by someone who didn't want anything from you. But the memory doesn't ache. It grounds, because what you do now is no less human. You keep stories intact. You preserve a stillness no one else dares to touch. And in doing so, you remain. You endure, even when no one knows your name anymore. You are the hum in the stones, the hush between rituals, the second silence that follows the first, the one that matters. Something shifts. It's small, at first a faint tremor, deep below the tomb's foundation, like a footstep a mile away. But you feel it, you always feel it, your awareness, now woven into the very limestone walls, twitches gently in response. It happens again. A second tremor. Then silence. You wait. The novice feels it too. Their breathing hitches. They pause mid-step. They place one palm on the wall, whispering a stabilizing word they probably don't even know they've spoken aloud. The tomb listens. So do you? Then, something stranger. A sound. Not from within the tomb, from outside. A voice. Not the voice of a priest, not the footfall of an offering bearer. This is newer, sharper, filled with confidence but not reverence. Intrusion. You remember the warnings. They were always there, carved into scripts no one took seriously. He who opens without honouring awakens without meaning to. Someone has entered the outer corridor. You sense footsteps. Not one set, several. Their shadows flicker in places shadows don't usually go. They carry metal tools, not blessed blades or incense ladles, but iron bars, torches with rubber handles. Their voices echo strangely, harsh syllables bouncing against centuries-old calm. Archaeologists, grave robbers in lab coats. You pulse against the chamber, not to stop them, to warn them. One of their lights blinks out. They laugh nervously. Another one jokes, loudly. The tomb narrows behind them, breathes. The Pharaoh stirs not in movement, but in presence. A low, ancient thrum spreads from the sarcophagus like heat from a dying sun. You remember your purpose. You press your attention forward. You move through stone. You reach the corridor. The intruders are taking photos, measuring, marking. One has his foot on the altar. You hum. The same hum you once used to soothe the walls, to guide your novice, to center your own trembling hands. But this time, the hum grows louder, becomes a pressure in their ears. They start to sweat. One drops their tool. Another says they feel dizzy. You do not hurt them. That is not your role. But you do not allow. You conjure the weight of every vigil that has ever been kept, of every tomb guard who's given their breath and body to silence, of every oath whispered through linen and fig paste and lotus smoke. The room tightens. One researcher begins to cry. Uncertain why. Just overwhelmed. They leave quickly. No discussion, no protest. The torches are left behind, still lit, but no one returns for them. Not this time. And in the chamber's cool stone breath, you exhale softly. Peace returns. The novice, miles of silence away, hears the change in the walls. They bow their head. You feel it and accept it. Historians will say nothing happened that day. A minor disturbance, some faulty equipment, maybe heat stroke. But you know, the line held, the tomb slept, and so did you. Because sleep doesn't mean forgetting. It means trusting that the silence will be kept, even under threat, even without words. You drift again into that deeper stillness, where dreams go to grow old, and you begin to hum once more, not for warning, for welcome, because someone new is approaching, not to rob, to learn, to remember, and you're ready to guide them. The newcomer doesn't arrive with trumpets or torches. They come quietly, feet careful, head bowed not out of fear, but understanding. You feel it before they enter the tomb. Their presence is steady, still learning, yes, but not pushing, not forcing. They place one hand on the outer threshold, pause, breathe, and then step through. The tomb responds with a low warmth, the kind it gives only when approached by someone who carries respect like a second skin. The corridor glows a little brighter, not from light, from memory, yours, the tomb's, the Pharaoh's, all weaving together into a welcome. You move gently toward them, through the wall, through the floor, through the softest parts of presence that only a tomb can understand. You listen. They are humming, just a few notes, off-key, but familiar. It's the same pattern you used to teach your novice how to breathe when the silence felt too heavy. And now, that echo's returning to you in a new voice, timid but true. They've heard it somewhere. Maybe from a chant passed between scribes, maybe in a half-forgotten dream. Maybe, and this seems most likely, they were born with it. You do not appear. You never do. But you do surround. You help their footsteps fall where they should. You mute the squeak of their leather soles on the stone so they don't wake anything fragile. You nudge the dust to reveal the faintest track, the safe route to the inner chamber. They follow it, not because they see it, but because they feel it. They reach the vigil room and stop. A long silence stretches between you. You remember your own first moment here. The stones sweat on your brow. The silence so vast it felt like pressure. The way your name nearly slipped from your mouth because you didn't know how else to stay present. You wonder if they will speak. They don't. They kneel, then sit, then breathe, and that's when it happens. The tomb accepts them, fully. The air shifts, the walls tighten, then loosen. The sarcophagus hums faintly. Even the statues carved in stillness seem to nod. You lean closer. Place your memory gently around their shoulders like a shawl woven from prayer and dust. They close their eyes and smile. And suddenly, you're not just a presence anymore. You are part of a lineage. Tomb guards don't just pass on tools and rites. They pass on rhythm, habits, stillness, humility. Now it's in someone new. You withdraw slowly, carefully, folding yourself back into the seam of the stone, where your breath remains cool and slow. Like smoke curling from a censer that hasn't burned in decades, but still smells faintly of cedar. You're content, not asleep, not gone, just at rest. The novice will learn in time, and when they hum, others will hear it, and some will follow, some won't, but the tomb will still stand, because the silence has been kept, and it has been taught to someone worthy. You close your eyes spiritually, metaphorically, and perhaps, finally, for real, and the tomb wraps around you, not like a grave, like a home. You begin to fade, but not in the way mortals fear. You don't vanish. You dissolve. Your awareness loosens gently from the tight spiral of duty it once was, uncoiling like incense smoke in a windless chamber. You're still here, still whole, but now you stretch across time differently. The tomb exhales once more. This time, it's not a warning or a response, it's gratitude. You feel it in every joint of stone, in every sealed jar still resting on shelves dusted with centuries. The Pharaoh's presence has not stirred in decades, not because he has forgotten, but because he is undisturbed. That is your legacy. You kept the silence so perfectly that even the dead could sleep without dreams. And now, the novice hums. Their voice is steadier now, Their body sits straighter. They've begun walking the perimeter of the chamber not out of restlessness, but reverence. They trace the walls with their fingers, just as you once did. And when they reach the carved gate at the far end, they pause. They place one hand on it, and then remarkably they begin the sequence of closure, the gesture, the breath, the rhythm, not flawlessly. They skip a movement. The toe doesn't press deeply enough into the dust spiral, but the intent is there, and the tomb feels it. So do you. You settle deeper into the walls. You notice things you hadn't before. A crack above the sarcophagus lid shaped exactly like the Eye of Horus. A faint echo from a forgotten chamber below, where a vessel lies unopened. A breeze so old it carries the scent of reeds no longer growing anywhere on this earth. You are part of all of it now, and you begin to dream, not as a person, as the tomb itself. You dream of boat journeys and embalmer songs, of feathers being weighed and scrolls being sealed, of a time when pharaohs walked with gods and tombs were carved before the kings even died because they had to be ready. You dream of your own hands, long ago, tracing the first spiral on your own wrist with a reed dipped in ink. You remember that ink smell. You remember the scribe's face. You even remember the fox that sat outside the temple door that night, watching you go in. You'd forgotten the fox, but now you remember. You laugh, not aloud, through stone. A soft rumble that no one else will hear, but the walls will remember forever. And the novice pauses. They tilt their head. They feel it. Good. They're listening. You fade a little more. Your name curls up like papyrus left in the sun, curling inward. Soon, you will be a spiral entirely. No beginning, no end, just a rhythm, a hum, a breath in stone, but not yet. One more moment. You return your focus to the novice. They are seated again. Their hand rests on their knee, fingers splayed, thumb touching the spiral carved into the centre of the chamber floor. You know what they're asking. They're not ready to speak it aloud, but the tomb hears it. So do you. Am I enough? And you answer, not with words, with a vibration so gentle it could be mistaken for a heartbeat. Just one pulse. Yes, they relax. Their eyes close, and they begin their first true vigil, not the one assigned, but the one chosen. You fold back into the walls once more, this time deeper, quieter, but never gone. Now the tomb is entirely still. The novice breathes slowly, evenly, their body fully absorbed into the ritual rhythm. Outside, the desert shifts as it always does, sand moving without memory, winds forgetting the paths they've just taken. But inside this chamber, everything remembers, and you, the former tomb guard, are no longer a watcher. You are the watching itself. There is no longer a boundary between your memory and the limestone, between your vows and the carvings, between your breath and the space between glyphs. The novice doesn't know you're here in this way, but they feel you. They sit the way you once sat, knees aching, spine straight, heart fluttering with questions, but beneath it all, a presence steadies them. That presence is you, not in voice, not in shadow, in silence. You feel the Pharaoh's presence, too soft and distant now, like a drum whose skin has slackened with time but still remembers how to echo. His sleep remains undisturbed. That is your gift. That is your legacy. No robbers, no broken seals, no forgotten rites, just rest. And rest is rare. The novice places their blade gently at their side. They don't clutch it anymore. That's how you know. They're learning that the knife was never meant to defend the tomb with the Force. It was meant to divide the world between what must remain and what must be let go. The door behind them opens slightly, only a sliver. A priest, older than most, peeks in, nods once, and retreats. Supplies will be brought, but the vigil won't be interrupted. The tomb has claimed another. You pulse softly in approval, and then, like a final breath before dream, your awareness begins to stretch into rest, not absence, stillness. The novice begins to hum. You recognize the tune, slightly off beat, slightly out of key, but perfect. You drift deeper now past memory, past movement. Your tattoos, long faded, exist now only as patterns in the stone grain. Your spiral, once inked onto skin, is now part of the walls, the floor, the soft breath of the tomb. You feel one last breeze, a scent of blue lotus and myrrh, and with it, a final image. Your younger self, standing at the Nile's edge before it all began. They smile, they do not wave, they turn and walk into the water. And now you are gone, not lost, just complete. The tomb holds you. The Pharaoh rests. The novice watches, and somewhere, faint and eternal, the silence hums on. Let your breath soften now. Let your limbs grow still, and your thoughts settle like dust in a sacred chamber. You've walked a long journey tonight through ancient stone, through silence that speaks louder than sound, through the weight of memory and ritual and rest. You've learned what it means to sit without speaking, to listen without hearing, to be still not just in body, but in soul. This tomb is quiet now, and safe, because someone kept their promise. Someone gave their breath, their name, their presence, so that peace could last longer than any crown. You might still feel the cold of the stone underfoot, or the scent of old incense lingering at the edge of your mind. That's all right. Let it stay with you a while longer. Let the spiral slow, the rhythm soften, the silence deepen, and as your eyelids grow heavier, know this, the tomb will hold its secrets. The Pharaoh will keep dreaming, and you will rest now too, not as a guard, not as a witness, but as someone who walked through memory and came out whole. So let the darkness fold around you like linen. Let your breath match the stillness, and let the silence hum gently within you. You're safe, you're home. Good night.